actually loaded up into this game completely accidentally, but you know what? It's working out for the best, boys! Boys! This is actually fucked. I'm on 5 kills. He's there. May I have some more? Oh! That was dangerous. Don't know what you think, sugar. Hello. Oh, fuck, mum. Oh, my... And they called, and I put that on my mama. And my bitch called, talking about some drama. It's either women or the karma. Just like that. G'day guys, how are you going? Oh my god, I need to change my top. Be right back. And we are back. So today we are going to be having a look at, of course, the M4A1 Revalorisé, the tier 8 premium medium tank from the French line. Fuck, I can't talk today. So guys, as always, we'll start off with the history of the tank, then we're going to move into the top 3 and the bottom 3 quirks of this tank, then we're going to have a look at the brand score of this tank, which you can also check out in my article at heavilyarmored.com. Finally, we're going to have a look at some gameplay and then finish with my thoughts on whether or not you should get this tank. And also guys, just a quick reminder that we are still running the 15,000 gold competition as of the release date of this video. So do click on the link down below. It is worth it, guys. Why not make 15,000 gold right into your account? So straight on to the history, guys. Now, the M4A1 Revalorisé was a project by the French to effectively upgun a M4 Sherman, which is what this tank is. I mean, if you have a look at the hull, it's the hull of an M4 Sherman, right? So this was achieved by mounting a big old 105mm gun straight onto the tank. Of course, you had to change the turret as well, and this area at the back is actually a counterweight because this gun was so huge. I mean, if you have a look, it's pretty much as long as the tank itself. Now, the tank was renamed actually to the Super Sherman and was used by the Israeli Defense Forces mainly from around the 1950s or the mid-1950s to the early 1980s. In fact, this tank only ever saw combat with the Israeli Defense Forces and never actually by the French. So as such, this tank is actually mainly known as the Isherman or the Israeli Sherman. Let's have a look at the top 3 quirks of this tank, and the first one is that this tank has an incredibly good shell velocity of 1460 meters per second, which can really contest even tier 10 medium tanks. Also, this has a high alpha damage of 390 damage points, I guess you want to call them, but really good on this 105mm, which you would expect really from 122mm, but go figure. And anyway, this also has 10 degrees of gun depression all around the tank, so no matter where you are pointing your hull, you can always get 10 degrees of gun depression, which is really good in certain situations where you are getting flanked, for example. Now, the bottom 3 quirks of this tank is that it has weak all-round armor, which I will be showing you soon. It really isn't that great all around the tank. Also, it's got below average penetration at only 200mm, but again, we'll get onto that as well, and below average maneuverability, which you guessed it, we'll get onto as well. But overall, it doesn't really perform as an amazingly mobile gun platform, but it is a very good sniping platform. This tank is very good at going from long distances because it does actually have a very good gun in general. So guys, let's now move on to the brand score for this tank, and if you do want to see a rundown of how I work this out, you can go to heavilyarmored.com and just check it out there. We have a brand score, how we work it out, and we've also got the article for this tank there as well. But anyway, the DPM of this tank is 1828.13, giving it a 5 out of 10. Penetration wise, this tank has a penetration of 200mm, which isn't that great, so it gets a 6 out of 10. Gun handling wise, this tank has a shown dispersion value of 0.35, giving it a 3 out of 5, and a hidden dispersion value of 0.15, giving it a 4 out of 5. Now, the aiming time of this tank is 2.4 seconds, giving it a 7 out of 10. And the gun vertical movement of this tank, so the depression and elevation values, this tank, as I said, has 10 degrees of all-round gun depression, giving it a 3 out of 5, and 15 degrees of gun elevation, giving it a 2 out of 5. Now, survivability of this tank is not great. The armor of this tank is pretty terrible, really. It will not allow most HE rounds to go through the front of its hull armor, which is good, but it only has 75 millimeters of protection at the most on the front hull and 35 on the side, which we'll get onto in just a sec. I will show you in a tank viewer. So really the only place you can expect to ever get a bounce on this tank is the turret, but let's have a look at it right now so I can show you exactly what it looks like, guys. So guys, having a look at the armor of this tank, it does look quite strong, but when you actually have a look at it, it's really not that great. You're going to get 60 to 85 maybe millimeters of protection on the front, which won't protect you from anything you come across, and the only time you'll get bounces is if they shoot the very sides of your turret. Otherwise they will go through pretty much anywhere. Yes, you do get some like 180 millimeters, 160, etc., but really for the majority of the tank you just don't. And the side armor is really bad at 38 millimeters. In fact, a lot of HE rounds can go through your sides, and it's 38 millimeters all around. So really, guys, do not expect that this tank is a great tank for tanking, really, like straight up into the enemy's face. You do want to kind of stay away from the enemy and get some sniping shots, because really this tank doesn't have the ability to be able to go up into another tank's face. So because of all of that, guys, this tank scores a 3 out of 10 for survivability. It's not that great for survivability. Now, the mobility of this tank has a power to weight ratio of 15.71, giving it a 2 out of 5, and has an average traverse speed of 41 degrees per second, giving it a 4 out of 5. So it's actually pretty good on its tracks and with its turret traverse, but otherwise it feels kind of sluggish to drive, guys. Now, the view range of this tank is pretty good at 390 meters, giving it a 8 out of 10, and the concealment while stationary value of this tank, or its camouflage value while it's not moving, while it's not firing the gun, is pretty bad at 10.83, giving it a 5 out of 10, and that's because this is a pretty tall tank. I mean, if you have a look at something like the Chrysler GF, it's pretty much just as tall, and that's a big tank, guys. This is a big tank in all senses of the word. So guys, the value of this tank, how much do I value it? How much should you value it? Well, I think that this tank is pretty valuable in my opinion. Like, although it does require some skill to play due to its lack of armor, it is a tank that is great at supporting heavy tanks and light tanks as such, and it really can go sniping because it does have a pretty accurate gun considering its alpha damage and etc. So I think that this tank can really dish out damage, especially when you don't have to lead shots in this tank, because it just fires the shells so fast. So and also, guys, it's pretty cheap to run. Like, its shell cost really isn't that expensive, and considering with the high damage as well, it is a pretty good tank at making money. So I think this tank is valuable, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. The reason it doesn't get a full score is because it is not an easy tank to play in. If you're looking for a tank that you can kind of just relax in, this is really not the tank, because it can't hold its own in a one-on-one with its armor, etc. You really do need to have the support of your team. So therefore, guys, the total brand score of this tank is 59 out of 100, which is pretty good. It actually stacks up pretty much the same as the Chrysler GF. The Chrysler GF is really good in some situations, but really shit in other situations, where this is a very good all-round kind of tank. So guys, if you do want to see where it sits, you can actually go over to heavilyarmored.com and look at the tank comparison section. I believe, what's it called? Let's have a look. It's called the current ranking section. Makes sense, right? So you can check where this tank actually sits against other tanks. Enough babbling on, guys. Let's have a look at some Ace Tanker gameplay. So here we are on mines. This isn't really a great matchup for us. We are versing tier 10 tanks, tier 9 tanks, but we do still have a few tier 8 tanks on our team and the enemy team as well. Now you can see as well, guys, that I've got coated optics of this tank, meaning that I can get up to that view range cap almost of 445 meters, and with better crew as well, which this tank doesn't have at the moment, I can get even better. So you can see right now I'm stopping here to be able to snipe any tanks that are climbing up there, and you can see that this tank has pretty good dispersion values on this tank, so it looks like I'm able to get a sniping shot in pretty quickly. We do miss a couple of pretty good opportunities here, but we decide anyway that, well, nothing we can really do here. I did stop so I could try and get a sniping shot, but obviously the light tank was clearly too small for me to see, and so I didn't get a shot off at him. But anyway, we are going over to this area so we can try and get some spots off onto those really nasty tanks. The Gorilla and the Centurion 7-1 are both nasty tanks, and we don't really want to get hit by them. And that AMX CDC is also a pretty, it's like a mosquito. It kind of just keeps shooting at you and flies around, really pesky and annoying. So yes, we do head up over this way, and I'm going to try and utilize this tree here. I'm going to knock it over, and I'm going to try and utilize the view range on this tank. So you see I back up because I don't want that Gorilla to take a shot at the tree knowing that I'm there. See, we spot a Rheinmetall Borsig, but we'd rather take a shot at that Gorilla 15, and as you guys might know, if you hit a higher tier tank, you're going to get more experience and more credit, so that's why I'm prioritizing the Gorilla 15, and also it's a nastier tank. We'd rather take it out first. You can see that Centurion makes a big mistake there, and I'm able to get off a shot at him and capitalize on that mistake. He doesn't seem to have learned because he keeps coming forward. You can see as well, guys, that the reload of this tank is really, really fast as well. So you can see I'm waiting for him to disappear, so I know I'm disappeared for sure. And I think that Rheinmetall Borsig is going to be still in there, and so I shoot, and it seems I hit him, and it looks like he was shooting, trying to aim at me as well, so I get a shot off into him, and once he gets shot, he fires as well, knowing that I'm going to be there, but he misses, but I don't. And you can see we also got the spotting damage there as well, because our Lorraine on our team was able to take him out. So far we're doing pretty well. And we snap off a shot into that Centurion 7-1. And this is something that this tank can do because it has such good hidden dispersion values. And the average of 0.15 is really, really good. And it's something that you can't underestimate. This tank was buffed, I think, a few times because it wasn't performing very well. And those buffs have done it very, very well, being able to snap off snipe shots. We are being quite aggressive here because we are taking the front line for this side of the map, but it's clearly capitalizing very well. And we are still being cautious. I'm not going too far forward. So I'm waiting for that Gorilla 15 to come forward and maybe do something stupid. And I decide to, instead, I'll go ahead and I'll try and spot for our team, because right now the scores are even, but it looks like our team is kind of struggling as well. So I'm going to try and go off and spot that CDC. There shouldn't be anything else here, but I also need to be careful of those two nasty tank destroyers on the other side of the map. You can see we see the T-28 prototype, and I try and get a shot off into the side, but I bounce off the cheek, and this is where the penetration can be slightly annoying. Usually you should be able to go through the cheek of that tank, but obviously I just didn't have the penetration value to be able to go through it. So here you see I spot the CDC, I see the GW Tiger P though, and I take a shot at it, and although I do roll high, I wasn't able to take it out, but that does almost give the CDC opportunity to hit me, but I was able to angle the tank effectively, so he was able just to lob his shot into my track, which I was very lucky about because 38mm of armor is really not that great. He takes a shot, and so we take a shot. We do 415 damage to him, which is really good. And at this point, he rushes me because he really doesn't have much hope. He is surrounded at this point. He's getting hit from all sides of the map. And the Panther 2 on our team does take him out. So far, guys, I've done almost 2,700 or just over 2,700 damage. So it's a pretty good game so far. I'm pretty happy and stoked in how the game's gone. But there's a juicy Gorilla 15 here. And oh no, we hit the dead CDC's gun. And so we missed the shot at that Gorilla 15, which I think would have knocked him out or been very close to it. So that was a pretty annoying, but there's nothing you can do. RNGesus, you know, praise him. There's nothing we can do about that one there. But I am trying to get some spots off on him. And I do take a pretty bold move here, because for all I know, that Gorilla 15 could be aiming at me or that T-28 prototype. But luckily, I'm not getting shot at, and I do miss that shot on the move by the T-28 prototype, but I probably wouldn't have penetrated anyway. He was facing me. And we do get a shot off at this T-54E1, which is pretty handy. And then we have that Gorilla 15, and he seems to be aiming at us, but his attention is going to be diverted in a second, and he fires and misses, and he's about to make a very big mistake here and pop out. And we will take him out. Oh, don't you worry, we will. The game is pretty much over, guys. I mean, we have surrounded their team pretty much effectively. But I am still aiming at that Gorilla 15 because I know he's going to pop out, and he does. And it pays off because I am able to take him out. So my second kill of the game. and we are going to try and get around and shoot at that T28 prototype while we can. Maybe you can see the mobility of this tank averaging about 35 kilometers per hour, and we get a shot off into the side and take him out. So a really, really good game for us there, guys. I was really happy with my progress in this game. I have been struggling to play this tank because I'm not an amazing player myself, and I'm very much the player to rush forward into stupid situations, but as you can see, playing reservedly and with a good team, you can really do well in this tank. So guys, having a look at the post-game stats here, we did pick up a Ace Tanker badge, we got a Spotter badge, a Bruiser medal, a Fire for Effect medal, and also an Epic medal, Le Have Sly Hose medal. I don't know how to pronounce it, guys. I don't think that this is a very hard medal to achieve. It's just by destroying 2 enemy tanks or tank destroyers with a medium tank. That must be at least 1 tier higher, but oh well, guys, I got it. I shouldn't complain too much. You can see we did end up on the top of my team for experience, but not for damage, although it is understandable considering the Jagdpanzer E100 is a tier 10 tank destroyer, so that tank did 4,000 damage, but we still got out a really cool 3,248 damage. On top of that, we got 1,052 spotting assistance damage, so all in all, guys, we were over 4,200 damage, which is pretty cool in my opinion. In fact, 4,300 damage exactly, I'm pretty sure, so that is pretty neat. And we also picked up a huge profit, guys, of 151,457. Even with all that ammunition we fired, I don't think we fired any premium rounds, so we got only 7,000 in cost, and we picked up 151,000 credits, which is pretty insane, leaving us with a base experience of 1,380. So hopefully you guys can see that this tank is really good if you are patient and if your team is good as well. You do have to keep in mind that your team is very important when playing this tank, because this is a support tank, which might not be great for a lot of people out there who just really hate playing team games, and also because the team can often just be completely idiotic. But you know, this is something that that's the kind of conditions that tank really performs well in. So what are my final thoughts on this tank? Would I get it if I were you, or would I get it again? The answer is yes. I really like this tank. I really love that shell velocity. It really does make the tank. It's great at sniping. Although it doesn't have the highest penetration values, it still has a pretty decent amount of penetration, and you can aim at weak spots in this tank. So yeah, I really do like this tank, guys. I think it's pretty fantastic to play. But anyway, guys, thank you so very much for watching. If you did like the video, please do leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. It does really make my day to see you guys sticking around. Comment as well. I love to see those. I do read them all. Not that there are that many. But anyway, guys, I'll catch you next time.